Welcome to the Larson Health Podcast, where we bridge science, nutrition, and functional medicine to heal you from the inside out. I'm Kim Larson. I'm a certified functional nutrition coach, fast like a girl coach, and founder of Larson Health, which includes Larson Health Weight Loss, LarsonNutrition.com, and Larson Botanicals. Which I am most excited about is the Larson Botanicals. If you go to LarsonBotanicals.com, you'll see I have candles, I have face serum. So my skin is glowing, face cream. That's also why my skin is glowing. I have a body balm that with the winter hands. I'm making some lip balms. I'm not quite done with them yet, but almost done. And candles that are everything is non-toxic, made with all organic ingredients. And I'm so excited about it. I'm actually going to have to get a little shop because our house right now is filled. If you saw my desk, I've got labels upon labels, getting ready to do the labels for all the products. And I'm looking at, professional packaging for it. I've invested a lot of money into this and I'm really excited. We're going to do some holiday shows and it's available on my website. So I'm really looking forward to providing these non-toxic skincare items and the candles. And then I'm going to get into some other products soon as well, like some face wash and some other items. So more to come. But here on my podcast, we talk about real health, transformation, and how food, fasting, and lifestyle can change your hormones, your metabolism, and longevity. So today I want to talk to you about something that frustrates so many of you. And honestly, it frustrates me too. This old idea that weight loss is nothing more than calories in and calories out. Just eat less, move more, be disciplined, right? And everything will take care of itself. Well, let me tell you about one of my clients. I'll call her Sarah. She's in her mid 50s, works full time, has 3 grown kids, and she came to me almost in tears. She said, Kim, I'm eating 1,200 calories a day. I track everything. I walk every night. I feel like I'm doing everything right, and my body is just ignoring me. What is going on? If you're nodding along with that, this episode is for you because what I'm going to tell you today is that your body is not ignoring you. It's responding to the information it's been given. And that information is about so much more than calories. I don't even count calories at all. I can tell you that. I just do not count calories. I watch what I eat, right? So that's probably why at 57, I look damn good for 57. And also the skincare is amazing. I used to have really deep wrinkles around my eyes. Now I don't. It's just amazing what it's doing for my skin. I'm just amazed when you use real whole organic products on your face and put it into your body, what it does for your skin. And drink lots of water too. So we're going to talk about why the simple calories in, calories out story is incomplete. Okay. So I'm going to explain why body fat is actually part of your endocrine system. Yes, your fat is hormonally active. So we'll talk about smart fat versus inflamed fat. And we'll talk about why calories from beans and lentils and broccoli and wild salmon are not the same as calories from ultra processed food. Even if the numbers on the label match, and then we're going to get into one of my favorite topics, your gut microbiome, and this fascinating little bacterium called Akkermansia muciniphila, and how foods like cranberries and pomegranates can quietly remodel your metabolism from the inside out. I also want to share a few stories along the way from clients and from research, so you can actually picture what these concepts look like in real life. So I don't know if you've ever seen on the Larson Health Weight Loss. I have my before and my after. I used to be 198 pounds. And as soon as I got close to that 200 pound mark, I was like, oh my God, I've got to do something about this. I cannot continue on this road. But this is during COVID. And man, I was eating fresh baked cookies right out of the oven. I was having fresh baked pizzas. I was having all kinds of crap. And then I started getting metabolic diseases like high blood pressure, high triglycerides, prediabetes. I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And then I look back at like, what did I used to do that I never was fat before? And then I realized I need to start helping myself. And then I need to share the story with other people who are struggling so that we can all understand what we need to do to get to a healthier place. It took me, 4 months to lose 45 pounds, or 4.5 months to lose 45 pounds. And you can do it too. I lost 2 pounds a week. I was consistent. I lost, I think, a lot of water weight my first week. I lost 5 pounds my first week, but you can do it also. It's just amazing what you can do when you focus. So let's start with a classic story where we've all been told, right? Calories in, calories out. Eat less, move more. The problem is that this model assumes you're basically a machine. You put in 1,200 calories, you burn 1,500 calories, and the difference just melts off as fat. The end, right? But your body isn't a spreadsheet. Your body has hormones. It has a nervous system. It has a microbiome. It has a brain that really, really cares about survival and does not care at all about thigh gap or a smaller gene size. So when you cut calories very low for long periods of time, your brain does not say, oh, great, she's trying to get into a swimsuit for vacation. Your brain hears famine. So it turns down your metabolic rate. It makes you tired, so you move less, and it ramps up hunger hormones like ghrelin and tweaks your fullness hormones like leptin in a way that makes you think about food constantly. I watched this happen with Sarah when she first came to me. She had been in a low calorie, low fat, high processed diet for years. Breakfast was a low calorie granola bar and a coffee with sugar free creamer. Lunch was a low calorie frozen meal. Dinner was, like there's plenty of pre-packaged frozen meals out there. Dinner was actually some kind of, I don't know, diet pasta with a light sauce or more microwave meals because she was exhausted. Everything she ate screamed diet food, low calorie, low fat, but it was also ultra processed and low in protein and fiber. On paper, the math should have worked, but her metabolism had adapted. Her hunger hormones were loud. Her leptin signaling was off, and her body fat wasn't just sitting there. It was actively sending stress signals. That's the big thing most diets don't explain. Your fat is an endocrine organ. It's not just a storage tank. It secretes hormones, things like leptin, adiponectin, and inflammatory messengers that talk directly to your brain, your liver, and your immune system. When that fat tissue is healthy and what I like to call smart, it releases signals that keep your appetite in check and keep you sensitive to insulin. But when fat tissue gets overstuffed and inflamed, it becomes dysfunctional and starts sending very different signals. Think of it like this. Okay, so smart fat is like a calm, organized manager. We've got enough stored, everyone's okay, we can burn some energy, no problem, right? Inflamed fat is like a panicked manager running around the office yelling, we're in trouble, store everything, shut it down, don't let go of any energy, right? It's panicked, it's rushing around like crazy. So if you're stuck in that inflamed fat state, you can cut calories all you want and your body will still try to hold on to the energy. That's why so many people plateau. It's not just willpower, it's wiring. Here's another story I want to share with you. I worked with a man in his late 40s, we'll call him Mark, who was an engineer. Engineers love data, right? He came to me with an Excel spreadsheet of every calorie he'd eaten for 6 months. He showed me his numbers and said, I should be losing 2 pounds a week. I'm not. What's wrong with me? We ran labs. He had insulin resistance, elevated triglycerides, and his liver enzymes were creeping up. Signs that his metabolism and his liver were stressed. This can lead to fatty liver disease. His diet was technically calorie controlled, but half or more of his intake was from ultra processed foods, protein bars, packaged diet snacks, low fat chips, artificially sweetened drinks. When we shifted him away from ultra processed foods and toward actual food, protein he could chew, legumes, vegetables, some berries, healthy fats, here's what happened. His calorie intake didn't change much at first, but his hunger decreased. Within a few weeks, he naturally started eating fewer calories without even trying. His labs improved. His weight started dropping. The same person, same basic calorie zone, completely different hormonal and metabolic response because the quality of his calories changed. The research backs this up too. There are clinical studies where people are overfed or matched for calories, but one group eats mostly ultra processed foods and the other group eats minimally processed whole food meals. The ultra processed group tends to eat more, gain more weight, and have more metabolic disruption. The whole food group tends to spontaneously eat less and lose more weight, even when no one is telling them to diet harder, right? Diet harder. So, food quality changes the way your brain and gut perceive those calories. Now, to understand why this matters so much, I want to go a little deeper into the idea of smart fat. Smart fat is what you have when your adipose tissue is not overstuffed, not chronically inflamed, and still talking nicely with the rest of your body. It releases hormones in a balanced way. It listens to insulin. It doesn't like shut it down because you're overloading it with insulin. It tells your brain when it has had enough stored energy so your appetite can calm down. Inflamed or dysfunctional fat is what happens when those cells get chronically overloaded. They stretch, they get stressed, blood supply doesn't keep up, and they start to leak inflammatory signals. So the immune system moves in. Now your fat isn't just holding energy, it's participating in a chronic, low-grade inflammatory state that makes insulin resistance and weight gain worse. I had a client, let's call her Denise, who what we'd call normal weight on the scale, but a very high body fat percentage and a lot of visceral fat. That's the fat that's in your organs and in your belly, right? It's all within your organs, and that's the dangerous kind of fat, especially around the abdomen. Her blood work showed elevated fasting insulin and early changes in her liver enzymes. She was a classic example of someone whose number on the scale, the weight scale, wasn't telling the whole story of what her fat was doing hormonally. I didn't put her on our traditional low calorie diet. I just don't believe in that. Instead, we focused on changing the behavior of her fat and her gut. We brought in more high quality protein to support muscle, added beans and lentils several times a week, layered in vegetables and polyphenol rich foods like berries and pomegranates, and dialed back the refined carbs and ultra processed snacks. Over several months, her waist circumference shrank, her body composition improved, and her labs got better. Her calories were reasonable, not extreme, but her hormones and fat tissue were doing something different. Let's talk about specific foods for a minute, okay? Because this is where it gets fun and empowering. When I look at a plate, I'm not thinking just about macros and calories. I'm thinking about signals. Protein sends signals about growth and repair and satiety. Fiber sends signals to your microbiome and your gut wall. Polyphenols, the colorful, bitter, sometimes tart plant compounds in things like cranberries, pomegranates, berries, and green tea, send signals to your microbes and your immune system. Legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas are one of the most underrated metabolic power tools. They're like little packages of protein, fiber, resistant starch, and minerals. In studies, when people ate legumes in their regular diet, even if they don't consciously restrict calories, they often see improvements in cholesterol, blood sugar, and waist size. I saw this in a client. I'll call her Maria. Maria was in her early 60s, postmenopausal, and had been told she was pre-diabetic. She was terrified of carbs. She had cut them very low, but ended up relying heavily on low-carb packaged foods and not eating nearly enough fiber. Her gut was not happy. Her energy was low, and her blood sugar numbers weren't budging. We reintroduced carbs, but smart carbs. We added half a cup of lentils or black beans in her meals, often paired with vegetables and protein. At first, she was nervous. Kim, won't this spike my blood sugar? But we monitored her numbers closely. Over time, her fasting glucose came down. Her post meal spikes were smaller. Her digestion improved, and she started losing inches off her waist. Same woman, different quality of carbohydrate, different metabolic story. Now let's weave this into the gut microbiome and this fascinating little bug called Akkermansia eosinophilia. Akkermansia lives right up against the mucus layer that lines your intestines. You can think of it like a gardener that helps tend to your gut barrier. When this microbe is present in healthy amounts, studies have linked it to better insulin sensitivity, lower inflammation, and protection against some of the metabolic chaos that can come with obesity and poor diet. So I remember I used to have leaky gut, and every time I would eat something that was maybe a little off, my gut would just, I would get so bloated and be painful. Well, I realized that I had a leaky gut. So I started to go about repairing it, right? Because I was eating all these processed foods, the fresh baked cookies out of the oven, out of some plastic container that they came in, or the pizza that came in the frozen, whatever. And then I added some processed meats onto it, and maybe I threw on some vegetables, but that was what I was eating. And all that highly processed food, I was so sick. I didn't feel it. I could see that I was heavy. I looked ballooned up. My brother called me that I looked like a linebacker. So he's not the nicest guy, but I took the hint, right? So here's a research style case study. In some animal studies, when mice are fed a high fat, high sugar diet, they became obese and insulin resistant. No surprise there. But when researchers supplement those mice with Akkermansia, something interesting happens. The mice gain less weight, their insulin sensitivity improves, their gut barrier stays stronger, and their inflammation markers are lower. These are controlled studies where the calories are basically the same. The difference is the microbial environment. In early human trials, even overweight adults took a supplement containing pasteurized Akkermansia. Some of them showed improvements in insulin sensitivity and other metabolic markers. It's not a magic pill, and we still need more research, but it's a powerful hint that your microbes are not just passengers. They are part of your metabolic machinery. I can tell you that what we do is we get kefir every morning. We have a breakfast with, I don't always have this breakfast. Sometimes I just have chicken and some vegetables, but we usually have, I have cottage cheese with, might have a half a cup of cottage cheese, half a cup of Greek yogurt, unflavored. We'll have berries that came from the summer, organic berries that we froze. We'll put that in there. I can actually show you. This is my berries. They're frozen, so I'm letting them thaw, but they're just berries from the summer. And then I'll put in some chia seeds, some holy basil seeds. I'll put in some pumpkin seeds and some sunflower seeds. These are just, whole seeds, whole foods. What else do I put in there? Avocado. I put in half an avocado, and it's just really delicious. Now, this is I will never finish this whole thing, but this is my mixture of cottage cheese and everything else besides the berries that has got, and it's got some protein in there. So I put in some peanut butter protein. It's an organic peanut butter protein and grass-fed whey protein. And this will fill me up, and I will not eat again. And so I'll eat this probably at the end of the show, sometime around 11 o'clock. And then I won't eat again until maybe 4 or 5, and that'll be it. That's all I eat. But I make sure that I get a lot of protein. So this breakfast has about 50 grams of protein in it. And then my dinner, I'll probably have 7 ounces of chicken or 7 ounces of salmon or 8 ounces of salmon. And then I'll have some broccoli, or I'll have some green beans or some Brussels sprouts or some chopped up spinach or kale, some sauteed. I'm trying to remember what we have growing in the garden. I just chopped it all, obviously, because we've had frozen evenings too much, and I was so surprised that this stuff was lasting. Anyway, my husband's probably like, "It's this, it's this." So, anyway, now here's where food comes in again, right? So certain foods appear to help support this microbe, right? Especially polyphenol-rich foods. So cranberries are a great example. And some animal models, where when scientists give a cranberry extract rich in polyphenols, the animals show less diet-induced obesity, less insulin resistance, less inflammation. And one of the changes they see in the gut is an increase in acromantia. Pomegranate, with its rich polyphenols, appears to have similar microbiome supportive effects. I'm not saying drink cranberry juice and all your problems will go away, but I'm saying that when you consistently bring in polyphenol-rich foods, berries, cranberries, pomegranate, brightly colored vegetables, herbs, and spices, you're feeding a microbial ecosystem that helps your metabolism work with you instead of against you. So let me give you a composite client story here, combining a pattern I've seen many times. I'll call her Lisa. Lisa was in her early 50s, going through perimenopause, and she felt like her body had betrayed her. She said, "I used to skip a few meals and drop 5 pounds. Now I look at a cracker and I gain weight." She was experiencing hot flashes, poor sleep, sugar cravings, and belly fat that seemed to arrive overnight. And when you looked at her typical day, breakfast was coffee and a small pastry or nothing at all. Lunch was often some kind of fast food or a healthy wrap with chips. Dinner was pasta or pizza or takeout. She wasn't eating a huge amount, but almost everything was ultra processed, low protein, low fiber, and low in the bioactives her gut hormones desperately needed. We didn't put her on a rigid 1,200 calorie plan. Instead, we focused on what I call upgrading the information. We built her breakfast around protein and fiber, like the chia seeds, like the holy basil. That's my fiber in there in my breakfast. The berries actually have a lot of fiber, as well as the polyphenols that are in there. And then maybe scrambled eggs with spinach and mushrooms. Mushrooms are amazing. A lot of people don't like mushrooms, but I can tell you that mushrooms are like a natural MSG. They enhance the flavor of anything that you put them in. Or I gave her like Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt with a few berries and some ground flaxseed at lunch. We would added a lentil or black bean soup alongside a salad with extra virgin olive oil, maybe some red wine vinegar. At dinner, we aimed for a piece of fish or chicken and at least half the plate as vegetables, sometimes with beans or chickpeas. She started adding a small amount of unsweetened cranberry or pomegranate a few times a week. And here's what happened over the next few months. Her energy became more stable. Her cravings dropped dramatically. She wasn't thinking about food all day. The scale started to move slowly but steadily. Her waist circumference shrank. Her fasting blood sugar improved. And she would say things like, "I feel like my body finally exhaled, like it's not fighting me anymore." And that's true. It won't fight you anymore if you're not giving it all those processed foods. That's why it looks like, when you smart calories start creating smart fat and a smart gut. So if we bring this all together, what do I want you to take away from today? First, if calories in, calories out hasn't worked for you, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means the model you were given was too simplistic for your biology. Think about cavemen, right? So when cavemen didn't have processed foods. They didn't have canned food. They didn't have McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's and all this stuff. They didn't have a refrigerator to open up. That's why fasting is so important, and that's why eating whole, real food is about for your health, right? I mean, our bodies weren't made to eat all this crap. That's why we have so much disease in this country, because the companies that are providing these foods that are fast and convenient foods are ultra processed. Don't be lazy. Make your food. Make food. Make real food. I don't mean to call you lazy, but just spend a Saturday or a Sunday doing this. Work with someone that you know. Find a place that'll make it for you if you're just too busy. If you're sitting around watching TV, get off your butt and make some food, real food. Okay, I don't have time to watch TV. I could tell you that. I just don't have time in my life. I'm making all kinds of products. Yesterday, I was pouring candles. I was creating labels. I'm researching for doing a face wash. I belong to a women's club. I'm vice president of that. I'm an ambassador for the chamber. I'm going to different events to see like how are other people marketing their brands. What can I do to help improve my marketing for my brands? You just got to keep busy. You got to keep moving. You got to, the moment you sit down, that's when moss starts growing on your body, right? Moss doesn't grow on a rolling stone. So just keep moving. Second, your body fat is not storage. It's an endocrine organ sending signals all day long. And it can be either smart and protective or inflamed and disruptive, depending on the food, stress, sleep, and lifestyle environment you give it. Third, your gut microbiome is deeply involved in how you respond to calories. From how many you absorb to how inflamed your system is to how hungry you feel. Microbes like Akkermansia are part of that story, and they are influenced by your diet, especially by fiber and polyphenols. Even like cancer, they have found that when you have fiber, it will help keep cancer away. It'll help your body fight all those cancerous cells that are developing in your body. You need fiber, and you need to get rid of the ultra processed foods. Also, is you need to fast. When you get into 24-hour fasting and 36-hour fasting, your body will start eating away all these cells that are dying or that are not in good shape. It will help clean it all up and clean up your system naturally. So I'm going to be doing a 3-day fast after the holidays, and I would love to do it online with all of you guys. I'll start it probably right after the new year. I'll set out a schedule of when that's going to be, and we can fast together. I'll do lives so that you guys can join me, and make sure that you keep listening so that I can help you do a 3-day fast. And I'll talk to you each day about what you need to do, or actually I'll talk ahead of time of what you need to do and prepare for the fast so that you have the items that you need to go through your fast, and then also to recover from your fast afterwards, because afterwards you can't just go right into eating processed foods. You're going to have a terrible system. I can tell you that when I came off of it, it was like we were going out for dinner. It was my birthday, and we were going to have a steak dinner, and I had my broth, and then 2 hours later I had some kefir, and then after that I was supposed to have or some vegetables, excuse me, and kefir, and then I was supposed to maybe introduce protein the next day. Well, I introduced it that night, and I was not in good shape. So you just want to introduce stuff slowly, but I can talk about that more later. So, and finally, the quality of your calories matters tremendously. Calories from legumes, vegetables, fruits, herbs, spices. Nobody ever got fat on herbs and spices. Healthy fats like avocado, nuts, seeds, extra virgin olive oil, ghee, and quality protein behave differently in your body than calories from ultra processed foods, even when the numbers on the label are identical. So instead of asking, how do I eat less? I don't want you to eat less. I want you to start asking, how do I eat smarter? Maybe for you, that looks like taking just one meal a day and turning it into a whole food, protein rich, fiber rich, color rich meal. Maybe it looks like swapping a frozen dinner for a simple chili made with ground turkey and beans. Maybe it looks like adding half a cup of lentils to your salad a few times a week, or sprinkling pomegranate arils over your roasted vegetables, or trading the bakery pastry for a breakfast built around eggs and veggies. Start where you are. You don't have to overhaul everything all at once. Your body will respond to small, consistent changes. And if you're listening to this thinking, okay, I get it, but I want someone to walk this with me. I want a plan that's specific to my hormones and my health history and my life. That's exactly what I do. You can head to larsonnutrition.com to learn more about my one-on-one coaching and the programs I offer for men and women who are ready to work with their biology instead of apologizing for it. There, only 80% of what is genetic is passed on. So it's not all genetics either. Only 20% of genetics cause most problems. So I'll also add links to the show notes to some of the research behind what we talked about today. Studies on body fat as an endocrine organ, research on ultra processed foods and weight gain, clinical trials on legumes and metabolic health, and emerging work on acromantia and polyphenol rich foods like cranberries and pomegranate. So if you're a bit of a science nerd like me, you can dig in for yourself. So thank you so much for spending time with me. Remember, you're not a math problem. You're an ecosystem. You really are an ecosystem. When you start feeding that, like I love uh, this show where they talk about what is it? There's another one coming up. It's fire. And they like take their whatever and they connect it to the trees. And it's amazing how it is so true how we are connected to the earth. Like you should be walking with bare feet on the ground, obviously not in the winter unless you're in Florida. Walk bare feet on the grass and spend some time there. Make snow angels on the grass. Just spend some time in earthing yourself. Walk on the beach with bare feet. When you start feeding that ecosystem the right information, your body doesn't get smaller, it gets smarter and healthier. So you can listen to the Larson Health Podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and watch full episodes on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and snippets on Instagram and TikTok, where I share behind the scenes moments, recipes, and bonus coaching insights. And if you're ready to take your health to the next level, visit larsonnutrition.com to learn more about my personalized programs and hormone supportive coaching. I'll see you in the next episode of Larson Health Podcast. Thanks for listening.